All right, let's jump right into the very first chapter of Matthew's Gospel. Now, on the surface, it looks like a really long, kind of dry list of names. But what if I told you it's not a list at all? What if it's a meticulously crafted legal document, a coded argument proving maybe the single most important claim in all of history?
So that's the big question, right? You open up the New Testament, ready for this world-changing story, and the first thing you hit is what feels like an ancient phone book. Why kick things off like this? Well, it turns out this isn't filler. Not at all. It's the absolute foundation for everything that follows, and there's a brilliant, almost hidden logic to it all.
To get to the why, we've got to start with the who. Just who was this author, Matthew, and what kind of case was he trying to build from the very first sentence? Okay, think about who Matthew was before he started following Jesus. He was a tax collector. And in that world, these guys were the ultimate record keepers. They were all about the details, the legalities, the ledgers. He was literate, super organized, and he knew how to build a rock-solid case. He didn't just leave those skills behind, he brought them all to the table to tell the story of Jesus.
So you have to get this picture out of your head of just a casual list of begats. This is Exhibit A. Matthew is laying out his opening statement, like a lawyer at a courtroom, establishing with absolute precision that Jesus has the legal and prophetic credentials to be exactly who he claims to be. This family tree is his opening argument.
So let's look at the first pieces of evidence in Matthew's case. He starts with two titles that, for his Jewish readers, were absolute deal-breakers. And these two were the non-negotiables. Son of David meant he was the rightful heir to the throne of Israel. Check. Son of Abraham meant he was the fulfillment of God's original promise to bless the entire world. Check. I mean, without these two titles, the case would be thrown out of court before it even began.
But just as Matthew establishes this perfect royal lineage, he throws in a massive curveball. He includes people in this family tree that any other respectable record keeper would have, well, quietly left out.
In ancient genealogies, women were almost never mentioned. It was all about the male line, father to son. But Matthew doesn't just include one woman, he intentionally includes 4 of them. And let me tell you, their stories are far from perfect.
Just pause and look at this list for a second. This is not exactly the blue blood of Israel, right? We've got Tamar, involved in a pretty shocking family deception. We have Rahab, who was a Gentile and a prostitute. Ruth, a foreigner from Moab, a nation often hostile to Israel. And Bathsheba. Wow, she isn't even named directly. She's identified by her infamous affair with King David. Matthew is deliberately putting a spotlight on the scandals in the royal family tree. Why would he do that?
This quote really just nails it. Matthew is making a profound theological point here. He's showing that God's grace isn't just for the righteous and the pure. The Messiah's own lineage is filled with broken, messy, outcast people. He's showing from the very start that Jesus identifies with sinners, right there in his own family tree.
Okay, so Matthew has established Jesus' royal credentials and his identification with the lowly. But there's another twist in this story, a direct contradiction that has puzzled readers for centuries.
So here's the thing. If you compare the genealogy here in Matthew with the one in the Gospel of Luke, you'll see pretty quickly they don't match. They list different fathers for Joseph. So is the Bible contradicting itself, or something much, much more clever going on?
Here's the key difference laid out. Both genealogies trace back to King David, but right after him, they split. Matthew traces the line through David's famous son Solomon, the royal successor, the one who built the temple. This is the official kingly line. Luke, on the other hand, traces it through another of David's sons, a man named Nathan.
And here is the solution that unlocks the whole puzzle. Matthew is giving us Joseph's family tree. This establishes Jesus' legal right to the throne as Joseph's adoptive son. Luke, however, gives us Mary's family tree, establishing Jesus' actual bloodline. But why the need for 2 separate lines? This is where it gets really fascinating. It all comes down to a curse. You heard that right. The official royal line, the one that ran through Solomon, was cursed by God through the prophet Jeremiah. A king named Jehoiakim was so wicked that God declared none of his blood descendants would ever rule again. This created a divine checkmate. The Messiah had to be the legal heir to the throne, but he couldn't be a blood descendant of that cursed royal line. An impossible problem.
And this is just brilliant. It's how the problem was solved. Through Joseph, his adoptive father, Jesus gets the legal title deed to the throne. He's the rightful king.
But because he's not Joseph's blood son, the curse doesn't apply to him. Then, through Mary, his mother, he gets the pure bloodline from David that completely sidesteps the cursed branch of the family. He fulfills both requirements perfectly. Now, this whole solution, of course, hinges on one incredible event. The story now zooms in from this grand sweep of history to the intimate, personal crisis facing Joseph and Mary.
I mean, just imagine Joseph's position. He's betrothed to Mary, a commitment that was as binding as marriage back then. He discovers she's pregnant, and he knows he isn't the father. As a just man, he can't go through with the marriage. But he's also a kind man, so he decides to divorce her quietly, to spare her the public disgrace and, well, even a potential death penalty.
Just as he's wrestling with this, an angel appears in a dream. And notice the very first words, "Joseph, son of David." It's a reminder of his royal lineage and the crucial role he's about to play. The message is clear. Joseph, this isn't a scandal. This is a miracle. The angel then gives him the baby's name and mission. The name is Jesus, which in Hebrew is Yeshua, meaning Yahweh saves, or Yahweh is salvation. And his purpose is stated right there. He will save his people from their sins, not from the Romans, as so many hoped, but from a much deeper problem. And Matthew, the meticulous record-keeper, immediately connects this miraculous event to an ancient prophecy, once again strengthening his case that Jesus is the long-awaited fulfillment of all of God's promises.
He quotes from the prophet Isaiah, a prophecy made 700 years earlier. A virgin will give birth, and the child's name will be called Emmanuel. Matthew then provides the translation for his readers, God with us. And that's the ultimate claim. This child isn't just a king or a savior, he is God himself, present with humanity.
So Matthew's opening argument comes to a close. He's taken us from Abraham through kings and scandals, solved the prophetic paradox, and landed on this absolutely profound conclusion.
So that seemingly boring family tree was actually a master class in legal and theological reasoning. It established Jesus as the legal king, the pure heir, the savior for sinners, and God himself in human form. Matthew has laid his foundation. The question now is, what kind of kingdom is this king going to build?